Hey, good evening and welcome everybody. Welcome to our weekly show. We call it Three Broke Guys Handicapping, where we review one of the top racing cars from around the United States. Guess which one we picked this week? We will select a 4-race sequence from that track. Whoops. Are you guys hearing that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on. I've got feedback coming in my second audio feed there. I see from the other feed there. I apologize. All right. We're going to select a 4-race sequence from that track, and we attempt to come to a consensus on a pick 4 ticket. So thank you for joining us this week. It's week number 18 of the racing season. Wow, that goes fast, you guys. It's going to find us in the homeland of American racing, under the Twin Spires in Louisville, Kentucky. It's the 143rd edition of the Kentucky Derby. The big one is in race number 12, but the pick 4 starts in race number 9. It ends in race 12. It's an all-stakes pick 4 on Saturday. My name is Rich Sharp, and each week I'll be joined by my friends and racing analysts. And honestly, I can't believe this is already our second year doing the show. So our East Coast handicapper from Staten Island, New York, it's Ray Tirado. Happy Derby Day to you, sir. How have you been?
Good. Happy Derby Day. Really excited for this. It's like, can't believe it. Actually, you know what? I'm kind of happy we didn't decide to go this year because the weather's gonna be horrible. So maybe when the time we go, it'll be nice and sunny.
I did notice that. So before I get too far into this, our West Coast handicapper from Temecula, California, it's Joe English. And Joe, how are you doing this evening?
I'm ready for Christmas tomorrow. I'm after the show. I'm going to bed so I can wake up bright and early tomorrow. This is Christmas. I love May for multiple reasons, but the Derby is one of the great reasons that we do the show, and I love the month of May, and Derby is always a day we look forward to. Heck, there are like 4 pick 4s, 3 pick 5s, and godly any godly way to lose your money this week. On this card tomorrow, 14 races. It's going to be a great day.
All right. Okay, gentlemen, in a couple of minutes, I'm going to hear your top picks for the Kentucky Derby, and you're going to give them to me via your pick 4 selections. But, just to guess, I'm not expecting to hear a whole lot of singles that are going to get called out in race 12 tonight, so maybe I'm wrong. But I've been asking you this same question now since the first week in January. This is your last shot to tell me and our audience. Hey, folks, how you doing? Anyway, who is your pick? Your one and only pick this year's Kentucky Derby, and remember to save something for race 12. I don't want you to shoot it all here and things like that. But if you only got one choice here, Ray, you're going to get to go first here and like that. Who is your pick for the audience to win the 143rd edition of the Kentucky Derby?
Well,
yeah, I'm not going to let you get off easy.
oh boy, I got 2 horses. Well, actually, I'll give you one. I have to say, look at Joe's Goody. All right, you know what? I bet this horse. I bet this horse in the futures. You know what? I'm gonna go with him. Practical Joke.
There you go.
He hasn't shown much this year. I know it's kind of he hasn't won around 2 turns. He has a lot of negatives, but you know what? He's a 2 grade 1 winner, and I liked what he did last year. And, he could just keep getting better and better. So I'm gonna go with him.
All right. Mr. English, I know you've been reluctant to share this with me throughout this entire time. I've asked you to different times. So over to you, Joe. Who is your one pick this year in the Kentucky Derby?
If I had to take one horse, it's Irish War Cry.
Irish War Cry. All right. And just in the interest of showing, some fair here, I have been playing along with that, but I will tell you that the most interesting story in this year's Kentucky Derby is about a horse whose trainer was kidnapped twice and whose dam died when he was just a foal. And so my top pick for this year's Kentucky Derby is going to be Guinevere. And we'll get a little bit more just a little bit later when we get into our pick 4. All right. Just some homework from last week or some cleanup from last week. We had Golden Gate Fields in San Francisco, California. It had to be among the easiest pick 4s we've played all season. The payout was a grand total of $31.45, and we still only managed 3 out of 4 selections on our pick 4 ticket. That result moves our hit percentage for the season up to 63% so far this season. So that was that. Time for a brief weather update from Louisville, Kentucky. The forecast for Saturday calls for showers in the morning, and as Ray was talking about, it's going to be cloudy in the afternoon. They have a high of 61 degrees. Winds are from the west northwest. They're at 10 to 20 miles an hour. And folks, flip a coin because you've got a 50% chance of rain on Kentucky Derby Day. Just a reminder again, we are searching for a weather person. So if there's someone interested in getting some camera time, we are looking for someone to handle that little weather segment for us. So.
Hey, Rich, can I just want to interrupt and let everybody know? I don't know how the weather is where you are, Ray, but you were talking about not being in Kentucky. The weather out in California tomorrow is not going to be much better than it is in Kentucky. Let's just put it that way.
Man, we had rain too, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Our
it's
high is
supposed to
probably
be
gonna be about
rain
50.
and in the in the 60s tomorrow.
Yeah. Well,
So
their rain came this way, so we got it all day today, and it kind of just stopped about 6 o'clock. So
yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Well,
Belmont's probably sloppy too. So
regardless, rain or shine, at Churchill Downs in Louisville,
right.
Kentucky, tomorrow
They
they
will.
are going to have a total of 14 races. There are 7 stakes on tap for Saturday, and for today or tonight, we are focused on the pick 4. It begins in race number 9 and concludes in race 12. Gentlemen, the gates are locked and loaded. The outriders are clear, and the starter is ready to pop the gate. It's pick 4 post time.
Okay, let's go.
Did I draw post 1 or post 20?
Yeah, you got 22, Joe.
Terrific. I'm also eligible. That's great.
Yeah. Race number 9, approximate post time is 3:37 p.m. Eastern time. So for your West Coast players, make sure 3:37 p.m. Kind of an early one for us. They are going a mile and a 16th on the turf. It's the American Turf Stakes presented by Ram Trucks. It's a grade 2. The purse is $300,000 for 3-year-olds. 11 starters, and your morning line favorite at 7-2 is in post number 4. I believe it's Oscar Party, trained by Brian Lynch and ridden by Jose Ortiz. Okay, Ray, who's going to get all dressed up and get their picture taken for the American Stakes?
Well, can we call this the Kentucky Turf Derby? Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, it's just for 3-year-olds. Yeah. Um, this is a wide open race. I mean, I came up with 5 horses here. I'm gonna use 3 of them in the pick 4. But the first horse I want to talk about is Good Samaritan. He's 5-1. He's lightly raced. Um, but he's about a length from being 3 for 3. Yeah, made a big close on the turf. He was third in that Breeders' Cup Turf Juvenile, close 6 lengths late in the stretch. It's a tough spot for him being the first race of the year. But his style fits the track profile with late speed. Speed on this on the course usually doesn't do that well. So look for the closers in this race. I like the Rosario and Billy Mott. Got a good combo. Windstar Farm. They'll get the picture taken. Number 2, Big Score, 6-1. He was 5th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, behind Oscar Performance and Good Samaritan. That course was speed favoring at Santa Anita. He's lack of speed inside post, but he's gonna need to work out a trip here. I like Castellano, Tim McTeen, they're 1-for-1 together. So yeah, and his second race off a layoff. Lifetime, he's got 3 wins out of 5, so he knows how to get to the wire. Number 4, like you said, the favorite Oscar Performance, winner of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, Juvenile Turf on the lead at Santa Anita. He probably needed his last start of the year. This year, it's a good prep for him. He was off slowly, evenly, and he just tired a little bit. But he did show in the last race that he can rate, and so I'm wondering, would they just gun him to a lead, or would they just lay him back a little bit? Most likely they'll lay him back, considering there's gonna be a soggy turf course. Jose Ortiz is up. I do want to take a look at number 9, Made You Look, a Pletcher horse. He's got a 3-for-6 record. He ran in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile off a layoff and he weakened, so he was a little compromised there. Looks like Pletcher last year had trouble with this horse getting him 2 races back to back because he's one race layoff, so he maybe has some issues. Maybe this year he could come back and run a little better. He could probably be at the mid pack and pounce for Johnny V. Now we have a filly in the race, number 11, La Coronel. The filly taking on the boys. What? Scratch?
She won today,
Oh, she won
so
today?
I'm assuming she is not going to
Oh,
run
okay,
tomorrow.
all right. Well,
Oh
after
well.
that, like her now, will be scratched most likely. All right, Joe. All right,
Considering she just won.
okay, all right. So,
Yeah.
there you go. Red line. Bam.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. All right. So that's it. 10, 2, 4, and 9. No 11. Joe,
See,
Richie.
your keynote
That's a
your
good one,
keynote
Joe.
ticket
Good
just
catch.
got
Good
one.
catch.
Thanks. Your keynote ticket just got one lower.
All right.
I'm, I'm on the same two horses you're on, but in reverse order. The top two anyway. I like Big Score. I think he's going to be able to repeat the effort in the Transylvania and move forward off that effort. And there's two reasons why I would like the 2 over the 10. One, Good Samaritan's a good horse, obviously, but Billy Mott's is always known to give his horses one. Or actually, maybe I should rephrase. They don't necessarily tighten the screws. He probably has a goal later on. Maybe it's the Belmont Derby later in the summer. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but generally he doesn't necessarily tighten the screws on the first-time starter. This horse won first out in spite of being trained by Billy Mott anyway. But like I said, that's one to me small knock against him. There's actually a second, and that he drew the extreme outside post, which could end up with a wide trip. And the other thing I liked about Big Score is that if you look at those last 2 works, they're at Keeneland. Instead of bringing the horse back home, Tim Yakteen said, we're going to keep the horse in Kentucky. And I think that's probably a pretty smart move as opposed to having to ship back, train at Santa Anita, and then ship back across country to Keeneland. Keep him there. He's obviously happy there. He did well to win that last race. So I for those 3 reasons, I like Big Score over Good Samaritan. They would both be on my top line, and there would be probably the only 2 horses, and I think those are the only 2 horses I would use in my pick 4. I'm going to try and spread later. I'm going to see if I can get through with just those 2. So 210 on top for me. So Rich, I didn't see a check mark for you, so
I got to go back and
tell me something good.
I got to go back and find it. As I told you, and as I shared with some people that were listening, right? It's Cinco de Mayo out here, and I started a little bit early today. So, Conquest Fahrenheit. So the only horse that I would add in there that I didn't hear get mentioned from anybody else so far was what I'm hoping could be a lone speed horse. Now, this depends on how the track comes up tomorrow. I did not see a whole lot of speed in this race. This horse has been something of an eye-opener out here in California, where I genuinely don't have a whole degree of respect for our turf horses, even though I'm a big California guy. So in this particular case, Conquest Fahrenheit has done pretty much nothing wrong for most of his career. He's 3 for 5 lifetime. We've talked about him before. He's actually been on the show before. In one of these races. So I know he was there, and I think he was logical single for us in a couple of his races. And so I added him thinking that he might be lone speed out on the front. I've seen it before. If it's not a bog at Churchill Downs, if it's just a little bit slick and slippery, sometimes that will benefit a speed horse who's out on the lead in a turf race. You'll start to see the closers, the so-called the late chargers coming in, they're digging up the turf horse. The course that they're used to getting their hooves into is now slick and is not giving them what they're used to. So I put the 7 in there. I think I've also got the 4 and the 10 on my ticket. I'm gonna have to go all the way back up here. Yep, I've got the 4 and the 10 as far as my pick 4 ticket was concerned. But I had the 7 as my top pick here, and again, I heard the 4 and the 10 mentioned already. I heard that Joe has got the 2 Big Score with the 10 Good Samaritan as the backup, and I think Ray has got pretty much all of them. He's got the 10, the 2, the 4, and the 9,
and the scratched horse,
and the scratch horse, just in case he
And the
gets
horse
back
that
in.
was scratched too, so I get a refund. Give me my money back.
Maybe, can you go back in time and bet the horse that won? Bet the horse, considering she already won earlier today.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I want to.
All right. Well, we are moving along here, and we are on to race number 10. Race 10 is 7 furlongs. It's the Churchill Downs Stakes, presented by TwinSpires.com. It's a Grade 2. Purse is $500,000 for 4-year-olds and upward. 14 starters, and your morning line favorite. He's in post number 2. Masochistic, trained by Ron Ellis and ridden by Mike Smith. He's 5-2 on the Churchill morning line. Masochistic is a Southern California speed merchant who, interestingly enough, has a perfect record here at Churchill Downs on Derby Day, no less. He broke his maiden here in 2014. So, all right, Joe, you are up first on the Churchill Downs Stakes. Is Masochistic part of this formula?
I don't know that. It's funny because if and I shouldn't even say it, but I'm going to anyway. To me, this is a race that I can see something really, really weird happening. I just don't have a lot of confidence necessarily in the track, the way it's playing. Not sure how it's going to play. Not sure about the weather. I mean, Masochistic is a speed horse. There doesn't appear to be a lot of speed in the race, so you almost have to use him. But he is 7 years old now, and he doesn't run often anymore. And the fact that I mean, I guess he's coming back in 7 weeks, which for him is probably pretty quick. I, I mean, I have obviously he's working well at Santa Anita. He won his one race at Churchill, but if you look in that wet column or in that wet in the DRF in the off column for Masochistic, he's never run on a wet track. We don't know what we're going to get out of him at this point. At least I can't say for sure one way or the other. I mean, as long as he breaks well, he's going to be on either lead. But I'm just not confident enough to take him at a short price and just say, okay, yeah, we can single him. I mean, the one horse, Awesome Slew, ran a terrific race in the Colin Wells last time out, so he'd be my second choice. He's coming into the race really well, working. The last work was just the maintenance work. The work before it was a solid, 5 furlong drill at Churchill. Again, 0-for-1 on the wet track, and not really my favorite thing to do betting rail runners going 7 furlongs. Because he's a closer, I don't know that it really matters that much to him. If he was a speed type, it would be a little bit more daunting. And I guess maybe that kind of helps Masochistic in that Awesome Slew is not probably going to break on top. But again, based on what I've seen, what I'm looking at in the form, this is a race that unfortunately, like I said, I could see some 20 or 30 to 1 shot coming through here. There are other horses I'll use in my pick four, and I'll get to them later. But for the top line, I mean, I went 1-2 on top here. Again, not a lot of confidence, at least in my opinion, in this race. And I wish I could give you more than that. And I hope that our next handicapper, Mr. Torado, can give you more. Ray, what do you have to say about the Churchill Downs? Do you like the race, not like the race? Do you have a strong opinion? What do you think?
Well, actually, I'm on your 2 horses, actually.
well, that tells me definitely something crazy can happen.
I do like Masochistic. I can see him like 4 in front, especially with big money Mike Smith. I mean, this guy he can win races. He won today. The only thing I can see with him, I mean, if they let him to go soft fractions, he's gonna be hard to catch. He is 3 out of 4 7 furlongs, so that's a good record. 1-for-1 Churchill. Beers Cup Sprint in 2015, he got run to the ground by Run Happy, which many have. I'm gonna use him. I'm gonna use also Awesome Slew. He can sit in the pocket. Well, like you said, you mentioned that he's never run on the mud. Well, yeah, look what happened also today to what's his name? Paradise Woods. He had never run in the mud too, so that could be a factor too. So you don't know, it could be good or bad. The Awesome Slew. Yeah, I think he found his home sprinting after trying the Triple Crown races at the Haskell, PA Derby, the post Triple Crown races. I'm sorry. Um, he's the winner of the Commonwealth, so he had a good race there. Second to Sharp Azteca in the Gulf Street Handicap Mile. So he's got class, he's got talent. I use him. I do have one horse I want to mention on my bottom line. Uh, Forever, yeah, that's the name. Number 6.
Forevermo.
Oh, Forevermore. Okay, he's 30 to 1, so this could be your horse, Joe. Um, he's actually won on the course. He came in second to last year's Pat Day Mile. If you remember the Pat Day Mile last year, when Sharp said we went wow, that mile is a tremendous mile. And this horse coming second, so that's wow coming second. He's coming back the distance. He got Florent Giroux. So this horse could surprise. So that would be my horses, the 2, the 1, and on the bottom line, the 6. It's a tough race. It's like you say, anything can happen. We see a lot of Churchill on these sprints. All right, Rich, you got anything else to add here?
I did. So this, and you don't often hear this come out of me. This kind of leans towards, I guess, what you would call inside information. So I've met Ron Ellis. I've actually met him twice, and Joe and I had a wonderful conversation with him the last time that the two of us went to the track. So, and what was interesting, what I took away from the conversation was, and Masochistic was racing that day, so that was the day of the Triple Bend. It was on March the 11th,
Mhm.
and what he told us was specifically, and I know that he was coming off the layoff that day, but he actually told us that I don't think he thought that Masochistic was going to win the race that day. He honestly believed that Masochistic didn't like the track, that the track there at Santa Anita, since they had refinished it, had come up a little bit deeper than it had been in the past, and that maybe he did not believe that Masochistic was the top horse for that race. And we got that very early in the morning, so embarrassingly enough, we did not adjust. I don't know if we would have found Denman's call that day or not. But if you don't think that Santa Anita's a shallow track or a fast track and like that, then you're not going to think that of Churchill Downs, and you're certainly not going to think of that of Churchill Downs on a wet day. So I was concerned that maybe Masochistic, in not liking the quote unquote deep track at Santa Anita, certainly might not like the quote unquote deep track there at Churchill Downs, despite what his record was earlier in his career. And I thought maybe it would be worth taking another swing at the horse that dethroned him back in the Triple Bend. So I went ahead and looking through the horses that were here, I didn't really see anybody that made me jump out of my seat, other than the possibility that maybe Denman's call, Doug O'Neill, Tyler Bays. Tyler Bays was on fire here in Southern California. That maybe this horse, just like Ray said before, maybe this is a horse who found his calling at the 7 furlong distance, which is right where we're at here. He's got a win in a couple of thirds at that distance. He put up a nice score in the Triple Bend, and quite frankly, he dusted Masochistic that day. Now, we were concerned about the ride that was given to Masochistic that day, but Denman's call beat him by lengths. Or it seemed like he could have beaten him by lengths. He had him fairly easy that day. So I went ahead and put Denman's call on my top line. I'm also using the 1 Awesome Slew on my top line, and in my pick 4. Just because I'm a little bit of a chicken, I don't think I'm going to leave the chalk out in this one. So on my individual pick 4, I would also be using the 2 Masochistic. I believe I've also got Ray down here with the 1 and the 2, but Ray's actually got the 6 underneath for anybody who's looking for a little bit of a play. And, in the spirit of unity, Joe's got the 1 and the 2. All right, and I will come on back here. And we are going to move along. We're up to race number 11. This is going 1 1/8 miles, also on the turf. This is the Woodford Reserve Turf Classic. Grade 1, purse is $500,000 for 4-year-olds and upward. 12 starters and your morning line favorite. Well, he's also the defending champion, and he's in post number 2. Divisadero, trained by William Bradley and ridden by Julien Leparoux. He comes in as your 4-1 morning line favorite. All right, Ray, there are 2 horses who have a pair of victories in this classy race. Einstein won in 2008 and 2009, and should be no surprise to anybody that Wise Dan won this race in 2013 and 2014. What do you say? Is Divisadero going to join their ranks Saturday?
He's gonna be on my ticket. Yeah, here's a shot. This race reminds me of like one of those reunion parties, because we've seen these horses over and over last year. I mean, I think these have become our favorite horses now.
I would
So,
agree. Yeah.
I mean, every big race we go around the country, these horses show up on the tough division. So and they usually take turns beating each other. So
Going to get a picture of you riding World Approval someday.
well, well, you know where I'm going. Okay, my top choice, number 7, world approval. I think he'll make amends for last year's crushing loss to Disavell. I mean, that was a tough one. It hurt me, but I think it's gonna be both up the wire again with Fjorders. He's a grade 1 warrior last year. He ran in 6 straight of them. The United Nations, he won actually. He led in 4 of them and got beat late for a couple races. Most of those was longer distance. 9 furlongs could be his premium distance, so this is the case here. And I look for him to have a big race. Also, like another one of our buddies here, Beach Patrol. He covered all the grade ones of the 3-year-old division last year. Winner of Secretariat on Arlington Million Day. At 4, he may be the world approval of this year. So watch out. Chad Brown, Florent Giroux. I don't think he wanted to be on the lead in his last race. His first race of the year. So I think they'll take him back a little bit and make a run. Uh, Number 2, Divisadero, last year's winner. This is the race before the Derby. Inside post here may have a slight disadvantage if he doesn't break well. He's 2 for 2 on the turf, on the Churchill turf. So Lepu knows the turf as well. So he should be able to get a good trip. I do like the long shot at number 12, Bali Rocks. I think the distance suits him just well. He's a second in the maker's mark. Now he's going longer. That was a mile race. We got Billy Mott here with the Saez. This is actually a class test for him. He's been running in the optional claimings and allowance races. And but I think he's gonna roll in the last furlong, so watch out for him coming down the stretch. On my bottom line, I do like number 6, Bali Abali. He's a winner of 14 out of 23, but he was out since June and winless last year in 2016 in 5 starts. But he gets Castellano, and together this year they won a Kilo mile. So he might be. This could be a sign of good things for him. He is 7 years old, so um, he's getting up there. So, but he might still have something in the tank. He comes off the good race of last time, so he's stretched out a little bit and going back to his 9, 10 furlong distances. So those are my horses in the Woodford Reserve Turf Classic. This is the race before the Derby, so guys get your doubles going on for the Derby and um, pick threes and whatever you gotta do. So we got the 7, the 8, the 2, and the 12 underneath with the 6. All right, Joe. Who you like in the Woodford Reserve Turf? Or are you just gonna go all with your horse in the Derby?
It's funny if
that's a good way.
I had put in one of my pick threes. If I was playing pick threes with the Oaks, the Woodford Reserve, and the Derby, one of my pick threes actually had an all. If Paradise Woods was the top choice in the Oaks, figuring, okay, well, if she wins, this is these races are so competitive that you're going to get a good horse even at 8, 9, 10, 12 to 1. You can't really. They're all hard to knock. My top choice is the 4. Conquest Panthera ran terrific race in the Maker's Mark Mile. Almost caught heart to heart. Got beat in the last strides by American Patriot. He was fantastic that day. Obviously, the horse is getting better. At least it looks like, and he's getting better in my odds. Even though the brisk speed figure went down from 101 to 98. Third off the layoff for Cassie. Lescano knows him. He won a race on him at Gulfstream at going 7.5. It was a non-winner. It was a 2. Then obviously he tried the 3 broke guys angle into the Canadian turf, ran 3rd, again behind Heart to Heart. So Heart to Heart's not in this race. So I'm hoping that maybe that some of the older campaigners may not be as swift as Heart to Heart, and maybe he'll be able to run these horses down in the lane. I also like Beach Patrol, and part of the reason I like Beach Patrol is if you go back to his last race, Rich, can you put it? I want you to put it up there. The horse that finished 3rd, all included, came back to win a graded turf race. The horse that finished 4th in that race, War Correspondent, ended up winning the Miami Mile at Gulfstream, and the horse that ran 5th also came back to win a non-winners of 2 allowance. So that race obviously has turned out to be a pretty strong race. And you know who finished 6th in that race? That's right, our old friend number 2, Divisadero. So I'm just by extension, well, if he beat him by that much that day, he should be able to beat him now. He's a 4-year-old, hopefully getting better. As like I said, with horses like Divisadero and Kaseki and World Approval, they're older horses. We kind of know what they are. I'm kind of hopeful that Beach Patrols can still improve more. And that guy, that trainer, Brown, I think he's pretty good on the grass. Just saying, and not bad to have Florent Giroux either in the saddle. So I kind of think that Beach Patrol is going to have a say. He may actually get the lead in the last 8th, and it may be up to Conquest Panthera or somebody else to run him down. The other horse I like, I will save for later. The other horse I like is a little bit of a long shot, more like the horse Ray mentioned. But since we're going to do our own pick four segment later, I'll save that. So that's called a little tease for y'all in the business. So, Rich, I will pass it on to you. And I saw that your check mark is on the same horse that I like. So if you can add anything to what I said, please go ahead and do so.
Yeah, believe it or not, this was actually the toughest pick for me, or the toughest break for me as far as the check mark was concerned. And even though the Derby's got a much wider field, Beach Patrol, as Ray and Joe have both alluded to, he's been a bit of a star on this show. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, tonight's appearance for him puts him back in the lead as far as the horses who have shown up. If you look at all of these performances down here, these are all things that have been on the Three Broke Guys. All right, so we've been watching Beach Patrol. I mean, look back here. This OC80 is one of the very first episodes of Three Broke Guys. So we've been looking at him since the very, very beginning, talking about an East Coast turf horse who came over to California. And I think he's been on here like 6 or 7 times. And when I saw his name, I thought, all right, there's my single, no problem. This actually turned out to be a very tough race. It's got quite a few, as Ray pointed out, it's got quite a few of our old friends, our old buddies, Enterprising's in here, Divisidero's in here, World Approval's in here. Like I said, one day we're going to get a picture of Ray riding on World Approval. This is my old buddy. He has bet this horse going back to last summer. But in the end, I decided to go ahead and go with a horse, again, who I've been watching for a little while. Conquest Panthera was out here in California. So if you see back here, back in 2014, we got a little bit of a look at him. He actually was in the front runner. And then he went over to the East Coast and became a very, very solid East Coast turf horse. It's got back-to-back victories. Again, third to Heart in the Canadian Turf Mile. And again, Heart again in front of him in the Makers Classic there at Keeneland. A very difficult horse to get past is Heart. So give Conquest Panthera a break in each of those 2 races. And I thought that he deserved it today. So I wasn't going to throw out my old buddy. So Beach Patrol is going to be on my top line. I'm 4-8 on my top line. And then on my secondary line, because he burned us last year and we were all talking to each other as to this one, Divisidero was the one that knocked us out of the pick 4 last year. And so I threw him in on my bottom line along with my old buddy Enterprising. So I've got 4-8 on my top line, 2-9 on the bottom line, and I'll probably go 4 deep in this race. Joe went with the 4 and the 8, and Ray has got on his top line, he's got the 7 and the 8 and the 2 and the 12, and on his bottom line, he's got the 6. All right.
We didn't mention that Ramsey horse.
Yeah, I know. I ironically did not get it.
Note, watchers, note.
And ironically, Camelot Kitten was the Ramsey horse that beat Beach Patrol early. Was last year?
Yeah.
Maybe it was maybe it was in the American Turf.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So anyway, just thought I'd throw that in.
I think there was a horse that was in an earlier race that was called Kitten's Cat, Joe. And I couldn't help but think of your wife just betting it all on that.
Yeah, it's funny. I asked her about the Derby, and she said, "Are there any cat horses?" And I said, I had to look, and I said, "No, so
not in the Derby." Yeah. I said,
she's not betting the Derby.
In the prelim, there's a Kitten's Cat horse, and I could.
Oh yeah, there's Kitten's Joys all over the place. If we went by the sire, she'd be betting all day.
Yeah. All right, here we go. We are on to race number 12. This is the big one, folks. It is 1.25 miles on the main track. It is the 143rd Kentucky Derby presented by Yum Brands. It is a grade 1. The purse is $2 million for 3-year-olds only. 20 starters, and your morning line favorite starts from post number 14. Classic Empire, trained by Mark Cassie and ridden by Julien Leparoux, is 4-1 on the Churchill Downs morning line. They first began running the Kentucky Derby in 1875. Okay, Joe, I had to go back and look it up. Ray got to pick first last year, so you are up first this year. Who do you like in the Kentucky Derby?
I was at that 18. No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't there. I want to do 2 things. I want to update the odds. They obviously start early betting on the Kentucky Derby today. Right now, the favorite is Always Dreaming at 9-2. Second choice is Irish War Cry at 5-1. Third choice, I believe, is McCracken at 6-1. And Classic Empire is the fourth choice at 7-1. I just figured I would start with an odds update. Again, plenty early, so Those odds can change before post time. The Derby is just unique. It's a piece of Americana, and every year I wish I was there. Well, this year maybe not, only because of the weather, but this year was just difficult because you can knock everybody, but it seems as if almost everybody has done something worthy to say, hey, you know what? If this horse wins, I wouldn't be surprised by this. I'm thinking there are about 15, maybe 16 of them that wouldn't shock me, wouldn't make me fall off my chair. I settled on the 17, Irish War Cry. If Grand Motion can't figure out what happened in the Fountain of Youth, far be it from me to try. Apparently, the Wood Memorial was a terrific race. Cloud Computing didn't make it into the field. Battalion Runner didn't make it into the field. So, I mean, I'm not. I guess maybe down the line we'll see what they were made of, and maybe Irish War Cry will make them look good. I love the story. I'd love to see Rajiv Mirage win a Derby, based on all of his injury issues over the past year. But I've been one of those guys who've been getting up at 5:30 on the East Coast. Actually, I'm always up earlier than 5:30 anyway. But I watched the Derby and Oaks training from 5:30 to 5:45 every day this week until today. I didn't watch today. Just trying to get a look at these horses in the flesh to see what they look like, see how they've worked. And I didn't get much of a chance to see Irish War Cry because he only showed up at Churchill Downs, I think, on Tuesday. But I saw his work at Fairhill on YouTube. Looked tremendous in the flesh over the past few days. This morning, I think Grand Motion knows what he's doing. He's won this race before. He could be 2 for 2. I think he's going to be able to set a nice stalking trip outside of what really, to me, it's really funny because I think Always Dreaming probably drew in about the worst spot he could, considering that Fast and Accurate's they've been saying Fast and Accurate's going to the lead. So, okay, if he's going to the lead. Untrapped is removing blinkers. Who knows? Maybe he goes to the lead. Always Dreaming has been a handful to handle all week, so I don't see any reason that he's not going to be on the lead. And right outside of him is State of Honor, who is also a leading type, even though he's 47-1. I think he's in a really tough spot, but I'm hopeful that Rajiv Mirage can set a nice trip, not outside of those, but maybe in the second flight, and get a really nice spot. He's going to be out in the clear. Again, all the reports say he's looking great. He's training wonderfully. And like I said, I'll throw out the Fountain of Youth. And if you throw out the Fountain of Youth, he's been the most consistent horse of all of these. Without the Fountain of Youth, he's 4 for 4, and he may be 5 to 2 in this spot if that race doesn't happen. So I'm going to take my chances with him. Again, he's the second choice right now at 5 to 1 in the early betting. And Ray, I'm sorry to have to do this to you, but I'm going to do it anyway. My second choice is Practical Joke. I believe, honestly, and to be honest, and the other thing I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna be sorry I said this to you. He's 32 to 1 now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you got him at 35 in Vegas, but he's done nothing wrong. I don't, and it's funny. I heard something earlier today about Doug O'Neill's horses when they leave California. Sometimes they just wake up. So maybe I'm going to give IRAP more of the benefit of the doubt and say, you know what? Maybe Practical Joke's not the 2-turn hanger that everybody says he is. He has won 2 grade ones, as Ray's pointed out, and he hasn't won a race around 2 turns. Giacomo hadn't won a race around 2 turns. And I mean, at least when he was a 3-year-old and he went off at 50 to 1, he won the Derby. Again, I think Chad Brown could have a big day. I think he knows what he's doing. And third off the layoff, I think he's going to be another one who's going to set a nice trip. And with him, I think he's going to move whenever Irish War Cry moves. I'm guessing he's going to be Irish War Cry's shadow in this race tomorrow. Whenever Irish War Cry goes, Joe Rosario is going to follow. My third choice, I won't tease this one. I'll give it now. Is the 15. McCracken has looked fantastic in the morning. Everybody has been loving the way he's trained. I don't have a problem with him missing a start in the Tampa Bay Derby. Um, I'll have another who Doug O'Neill trained to win this race actually missed a race. He didn't miss a race. He by design he didn't run in March, and he ended up doing okay. And he won the Derby and he won the Preakness. Unfortunately had to scratch the day of the Belmont. But McCracken again has looked fantastic in the flesh, undefeated over the surface. He should be able to handle a muddy track. Again, he's 6-1 currently. And from all accounts, he's doing extremely well. He's been galloping out terrifically in all of his works. So those would be my top three choices to win. That doesn't mean I wouldn't use other horses underneath. Again, this race is really wide open, and it could really easily turn out to be a 25 or 30. I mean, heck, IRAP just won the Bluegrass, and he's 36-1. So, I mean, you can get a big number here. But again, I'm going 17, 19, 15 in the Kentucky Derby in 2017. So 17 in 2017 for me on top. Ray, what is... I know I went on a little bit too long, so please go ahead. I need to get a drink.
Don't worry, we have a lot of time here. You're right. This is a very unique race, and it's a rodeo. So every time you see that first turn, you see horses bunch and bunch and bunch, and not always the best horse wins, and um, you just have to help you get a good trip. Um, uh, Actually, my top horse, of course, I like Parker Joe because I have money on him, but I do like Gunnevera, like Richard said. Um, he's the winner of the Delta Jackpot. He won the Fountain of Youth, but he has alternate wins, so this might be his time now. But I noticed the races that he won, he showed some good acceleration in those races, and he just like took off. And if he likes the track that tomorrow, he's gonna do very well. And that Churchill is a long stretch, and he could be coming. Castellano, with Sano, the Venezuela collection, should like the money track. And you know, I think his losses, he actually found speed favoring tracks which he couldn't cut into. Because you see who won, Always Dreaming, Irish Warcry won that race. Kind of on a slow pace the first half. Not to take it out of Irish Warcry, but those tracks seem to be a little speed favoring, and he came just too late, and it happens. Sometimes the tracks go like that. So I think he's gonna have a good trip. He's got a good position. Castellano looking for his first Derby. I'm rooting for him. Hometown from Belmont. So, um, just hope that they do well. I do like number 17, Irish Warcry. Like you said, nobody knows what happened to Fountain of Youth. He just, stopped. And, things happen. He ran a good Wood Memorial. Credit to the Wood. And he's versatile. He can make his own trip. If you notice in his maiden race, he came from ninth, 8 lengths in his maiden to win. So that shows he can pass horses, and he doesn't have to be always on the lead. So he could get a good second flight trip, like Joe said, and he'll be there too. And this is a matter of who's going to get the good trip. I root for Mirage also. He's from the New York Racing Association circuit, and Grand Motion. He won this race before, Arrow Kingdom. I do like number 15, McCracken. He's 3 for 3 at Churchill. Can't miss that. He missed the prep, so he might have been a little short in the bluegrass. So give his little credit for that. He got three strong breezes since his last race. Brian Hernandez and Ian Wilkes. They're looking for their first Derby. He's got a good post. He can sit mid pack and try and find a seam to run into. And then I do like Practical Joke, of course. He's last year when I saw Champagne, he ran against with Syndergaard. They ran a tremendous mile. I know it's one turn, but still going a mile, going that fast. He went 8 and change. He came on 34, and that convinced me that he might be a good 3-year-old. Things haven't gone that well for him this year, but you know what? He seems to be just I've noticed in the mid races of those preps, he made some big move, and he just happened to just not to finish. Maybe the horses passed him, whatever. But he has a run in him, and maybe tomorrow's the day. So, Joe Rosario and Chad Brown, I know they had toy with putting blinkers on him, but they decided not to. So he's gonna still have no blinkers, and he's got talent. He's got talent, and like you said, how much is 37 to 1? Oh, that's
30,
the
he's 30 as of an hour ago. He was
okay.
32 to 1
Oof,
currently.
so you're gonna get some good odds this race. So spread them.
Well,
Um,
it's yeah, go
on
ahead.
my bottom line, we have Hens. He broke his main on a slumpy track, so I'm putting him in there. He was second as a maiden on the course. His last race was very solid. He won the Sunline Park Derby. He closed off to a very fast pace, so that should help. He's got a good kick, and there's Flo and Drew and Steve Asmussen. It'd be nice for Drew also to win the first Derby. You have a lot of jockeys here who haven't won the Derby, so we're gonna be rooting for them. And last but not least, Tapway winner. He didn't start well in the bluegrass. Made a little move. He got a good win in the mud in December. So if the track comes up soon, it's gonna be sloppy probably. So he should have a good run. Jose Ortiz again looking for his first Derby. So and Tom Pletcher, well, he got one, so he should have much. He should have a few more because I bet a few Pletcher horses in the past they came up short. So Tapper could be the one too. So those are my horses. I'm gonna go with a 10, Gunnevera, Irish War Cry, McCracken, Practical Joke, and underneath Hence and Tappet. But my pick four would be those top four. All right, Rich. Who you like in the Kentucky Derby?
All
I
right.
know the
Well,
California horse is a little short this year, but it happens. Mastery got hurt, so
yeah, yeah, and interestingly enough, you don't often see with me where I have the dual check marks. So
yeah.
I've got two of them that are up here. Back in the old days when I used to handicap when I was younger, I used to only look for closers in the Kentucky Derby. I would go through every single year and toss out all the speed horses. It was a mile and a quarter race. It's a deep track at Churchill Downs, and I was always looking for horses that came from off the pace. And it was funny because I was listening to Caleb Keller, who was on TVG recently, and talking about the change. That in these recent years, especially these last 4 or 5 years, you certainly didn't want to be off the pace anywhere, let alone at Churchill Downs when American Pharoah or California Chrome or God forbid I'll have another, regardless which horse it was, but that you wanted to be up there and kind of close to lead. So it seems like this year I've maybe kind of reverted back to my old personality at some point in time during this year, and I don't know when it was. I just decided that this race this year was set up to fall apart. I thought that the Kentucky Derby, and I don't think there's an overwhelming amount of speed. I just don't think it's a quality crop of 3-year-olds that we got this year. I don't see somebody who's outstanding. And so I thought the race had the ability to go ahead and fall apart. And when that happens is when Giacomo's show up and go across the finish line first. They come from, at the very back of the pack. And so the first of the closers that I looked for was Gunnevera. I gave you my little story on him at the beginning. Antonio Sano is the Venezuelan trainer who has been kidnapped twice in his life. And Gunnevera had a sad story that his dam, the dam of the little foal, died not too long after he was birthed. And so he was raised by another mare. But the horse comes from off the pace like crazy. He has, messed around with Irish War Cry. Irish War Cry, when he got an easy lead, was easily able to hold him off. And when there was a little bit of a hotter pace up front, Gunnevera ran him down like he was no problem at all. So he was on that last race. He did come up third. And so I thought, well, maybe if we see a little bit more pace in this race, we might see this closer coming off. So the 10 is my top choice. I did back him up with another closer, and I've already heard Joe and Ray document this horse enough. So McCracken, with his perfect record there at Churchill Downs, we saw him earlier this year at that Sam F. Davis. That was our one and only recording at Tampa. And he looked pretty good. So he was 4 for 4 at that point in time. Give him a break for the bluegrass because he was coming off a layoff. And so I've got the 15 and the 10 on my top line. And if I was going to put anybody else in this race, I would just tell the audience, look for horses that have got a price value that's something over what Joe and Ray have been giving you there. Something over 30 to 1, I think, has an opportunity to win today's race. I wouldn't recommend going for any of the short prices. So I've got 15 and 10 on my top line. I've got, I've got Ray here with 10, 17, 15, and 19 on his top line. And underneath, he's got the 8 and the 16. And Joe, I believe, has 17, 19, 15 on his top line. All right.
Yeah, Rich, just to give you a little bit further of an odds update, the horses after the ones I mentioned, Guinevere is actually the fifth choice. He's 9-1. He's not even double digits. And the sixth choice, I could probably give you the other 14 horses. You might not name it. Patch is 14-1.
Oh boy!
And he is the sixth choice. Yes.
All right.
It's one eye.
Yes.
Better for that.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of story that would be?
Yeah.
Okay, and let me get my screen up here, and we will turn it over to our individual pick four segment. All right. And so each week, Joe and Ray are kind enough to share with us their individual pick four tickets. So in addition to the pick four that you're going to get from the three broke guys combined, Joe and Ray do a pick four each week. They are limiting themselves to a $50 bankroll. They did some pick threes. I apologize, guys. I did not get your pick threes out last night. But tonight, these are the pick fours for the Churchill Downs legs on Saturday afternoon. And Joe, you want to go ahead and start us off?
Sure. I already mentioned the two horses that I liked in leg one, which was Big Score and Good Samaritan in that order. Like I said, Big Score stayed in Kentucky, has been working at Keeneland. Again, Billy Mott kind of generally gives his horses a little bit more time and maybe giving them one. But Good Samaritan is worthy of a possible bet. He, again, could be wide, given that he drew the post that he drew, even though he's a closer. In leg two, I went 1-2 on the show, but I also wanted to mention two other horses. Speaking of Billy Mott, he's got the 8 in here, El Kabir. And in his first start by Billy Mott, he won an optional claimer at Gulfstream, and he earned a really nice figure. Closed ground, Joel Rosario was up that day. Castellano gets up today. I think this horse has a chance to close ground. Again, because we don't know what the track is going to play like, it's kind of hard to say whether Speed is going to dominate, because obviously what I was hearing was that Speed was winning early in the card, and then Abel Tasman was 14th at the quarter pole, and she ended up winning the Kentucky Oaks. So my guess is the track is probably going to play fair, and maybe this horse can come and run down Masochistic if Awesome Slew is not the one to do it, because he gets stuck on the inside. Castellano and El Kabir could do it from the outside. And the other horse I want to mention is Clearly Now, another horse who's doing that three broke guys angle thing, coming out of an optional non-winners of two claimer. Optional 62 claimer. Again at Gulfstream. Finished third in his only start locally, but that was actually in this race behind Central Banker and shaking it up in 2014. Has 4 wins at the distance and has a win over a sloppy track. Again, another horse who might be able to come late if, for whatever reason, maybe Limousine Liberal engages Masochistic, makes him go faster. And again, we don't know what Masochistic's going to give us because he's never run in the mud before. And if Ron Ellis's conversation with us earlier in the year was any indication, Masochistic is no cinch in here. In leg 3, which is the Woodford Turf, like I said, I mentioned Conquest Panthera and Beach Patrol during the show. And the horse I teased was the 11, Can't Help Believing. Again, and if this horse gets up, it could be that Graham Motion gives you that Woodford Reserve Derby double, because Motion is the trainer of Can't Help Believing. He's good off the layoff. The horse has been running in grade 3 races. He's been graded races. Excuse me. He's been earning good figures. The horse has been obviously training at Fair Hill. The times there are generally slower, and he's training over a synthetic surface. Generally, that transfers well to turf. Jose Ortiz gets up. I think even though they have a low winning percentage together, they have a 1.95 ROI, which actually beats the takeout. The one thing about betting horses on that drawing post 11 and post 12 is generally they have a tendency to get wide trips, and in this case, Can't Help Believing is more of a closer, and Bala Rocks, the horse that Ray mentioned earlier, is also a closer. So chances are they're going to end up, wide. But just because they're closers, they always end up that way anyway. And in the Derby, like I said, Irish War Cry on top, McCracken as my second win choice. And like I said, I can't throw out Practical Joke. And I kind of hope, I'm going to Vegas in a couple of weeks. I hope I have a reason to go to cash a ticket for you, Ray. Because if I do, I'm going to borrow a little bit while I'm there. So
5%.
Yeah.
The big.
You'll be lucky you get off at 5%. But I just wanted to mention a couple other horses when talking about the Derby, and then I'll move on. I just the odds on a couple of horses. Ray, you mentioned Hence. He's 17-1 currently, and if there's a couple of horses that I kind of like to finish underneath, and one is really obvious, and one may not be so obvious. Looking at Lee, just seems to want more distance. He drew the rail. It doesn't matter. He's going to be last pretty much, or close to last anyway, so he's going to get to save all the ground. It's not going to make very much difference. And who knows, maybe he could be the Mind That Bird this year. He's 25-1. And another horse I like to finish underneath and maybe third or fourth, because I think he's also going to do sort of like a Practical Joke, and he might be the one to make the earlier move and get the lead. IRAP is 36-1. And Doug O'Neill and Mario Gutierrez have been there before. They've done this before. Man, if he's 36-1, I'm throwing a couple of bucks that way. I'm throwing it on him, and I'll definitely use him underneath in trifectas and exactas for sure. That's a huge number. Again, I know he just broke his maiden in the Bluegrass, but it's Doug O'Neill and Mario Gutierrez, 36-1. How can you go wrong there? So again, to digress, the pick 4 ticket for me is 210, 1, 2, 5, 8, 4, 8, 11, and 17, 15, and 19, $36 wager, and hopefully I can turn that red number below that year-to-date thing into a blue number by hitting this pick 4. So Ray, I will pass it on to you. Ray, give us more information that we haven't heard during the show already.
There's not much here. Actually, yeah, my pick 4 ticket, we have here the 10 Good Samaritan with Big Score and Oscar Performance. I mentioned those horses before. I did. The second leg. I don't know. This is a tough. You're right. It's a tough race. If I could get past this race, I'd be feeling good about myself. Using Mass Statistic and Awesome Slew. There's some also other horse here that could do well, but you keep adding, the ticket's gonna go way up there. But it might be worth it. You have El Kabir who likes the mud a little bit, and like you said clearly now that race, that clearly now ran 120 flat. It's a pretty good 7 furlongs. But I have to sell it to 2-1, and hope I get by for my ticket. You get in the Woodworth Reserve, using the 7 World Approval. You know, Written by Ray Torado. Number 8 Beach Patrol and Dizadell, and Battle Rock is my long shot. So if I get that far, and in the Derby, well, we got Gunnevera and Irish War Cry. We all spoke about McCracken, Practical Joke. It's funny, like you said, it's gonna be you don't want to cut yourself short in this race. You talk about always dreaming. I think we should have a few notes on these horses. This horse could fall into a Derby cavalry speed duel, wind up 10 lengths behind, or wind up 10 lengths behind, and that's a new tax for him. So what would he do if that happened? Because I've seen that before. Speed horses get jostled around, and he's 10 lengths behind. And you don't know what's this horse gonna have. Classic Empire, I don't like his progression as a 3-year-old. He did win the Arkansas Derby, but I wasn't that impressed with it. He could have won easier if he was. And I think the Derby could be taxing for him. He'll be a good horse down the road, but he's a 2-year-old champ, so maybe not tomorrow. I think he's a little short for this race. Gormley, he's no Mastery, who will be one of the favorites. So him and Battle of the Midway, they represent the West Coast best chance. So Well, that's my pick four. Gun Navarro, and there's horses there. So $48. I wish I could go more on leg two, but we're spreading from the beginning. The four horses in the last two legs, so it's kind of tough to stay under $50. Hopefully, I'll do well early in the card. I can, spend a little more on my personal ticket. But happy Derby Day. Have fun with it. It's always a good day. And, we've been lightly playing for the last 2 weeks for this day, so we have a good bankroll.
Mhm. All right, and I am going to come on back, but just for a sec, because I will bring up our pick four ticket here and just see if we've got any discussion on this. Hang on 1 second. So we've got.
Hey, Ray, can I just I want to interject what something about what you just said. Mastery, if Mastery had run and won the Santa Anita Derby, there would be no doubt he'd be your favorite.
Yeah, definitely.
There would be very little question about it. I mean, you're looking at Bob Afford, probably. I mean, I don't remember if Victor Espinoza was his rider or if Mike Smith was his rider, but either way, I mean, come on, there's no way. There's no way he's not the favorite if he runs and wins the Santa Anita Derby in his going into this race.
I can't. I don't think it was either one of those two. I think it was either Bejarano or it might have been Martin Garcia who had come back to him, but I can't remember which one it was. But
yeah, it could.
We were there the day he pulled up. So
actually, I want to say it was Mike Smith, but maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe it was. All right, so here's our pick four ticket, and just the first leg is the one I'll have the question in there. But so far in that first leg, we've got the 2 and the 10. Let's see. Ray had the 2 and the 10 on his top line. Joe, you also had the 2 and the 10 on your top line. I only had the 7 on my top line, so we'll just go and leave the 7 off right now. In the leg 2, race number 10. Let's see. Ray, you've got the 1 and the 2 on your top line. Joe, you've got the 1 and the 2 on your top line. And Rich has got the 1 and the 12 on his top line. So I went ahead and we'll throw a 12 on the top line for right now. The 1 and the 2. In leg number 3, let's see. We've got Joe, you've got the 4 on your top line. And I think that was my top one as well, Conquest Panthera. Ray has the 7 and the 8 on his top line. Joe, you've also got the 8 on your top line. I also had the 8 on my top line, so 4, 7, 8. And in the finale, that's actually Ray's ticket. There you go, 10, 15, 17, 19, which includes Joe's 15, 17, 19, and my 10, 15. So that would put us at a $36 ticket. I did not know if we wanted to go back and add the the 4 in that first race, which is Oscar nominated, I believe, is the favorite, which would give us a $54 ticket instead of 36.
No, Oscar Performance.
Or Oscar Performance. Yeah. But that's what we've got so far.
Sorry, I was trying to eat a little something. I obviously I crunched it to the. I should have done that. Sorry, audience.
Nope.
And to you guys. You know what? I mean, I'm fine with it the way it is. I don't really. I don't know that we. I mean, I would love to add one to get through. And here's my caveat is, yeah, we could add 1, but we might need to add like 7 or 8 in order to get.
Yeah.
So
no, that's true. That's why I left the 7 off. There was no consent. The 7 was kind of my lone wolf pick and let that. So I'll leave that one off. We can use the 2 and the 10 in that first rank because we've got some consensus there. And then 1 and 2 looks like there was a lot of consensus on those two. I put the 12 in, which is Denman's call.
Well, okay, Rich. I mean that I guess that would really kind of be up to you, Rich, because you're the lone wolf on the 7 in leg 1. Would you rather have the 7 in leg 1 or the 12 in leg 2?
That's what I thought, and I'd rather have the and that was what I thought. I'd rather have the 12 in leg 2. Okay.
Because I mean, Ray and I are both pretty much on the first 2 legs or the way it was. I mean, just with the 2 horses. But I mean, yeah, I'm fine with it the way it is.
All right. So we've got 210 with 1, 2, 12 with 4, 7, 8 with 10, 15, 17, 19. All right. And let me come on back to you guys. You got that one, Joe?
Hang on a sec.
Okay.
I'm writing it down right now.
Okay.
Not that I couldn't have figured it. Okay, got it.
All right. Let me come on back. All right. And not surprisingly enough, the big one of the year takes us a little bit over, just a few minutes over. So for those of you who stayed in there with us, thank you for watching. And for those of you watching, if you enjoyed the show, we will be back next week because, well, that's what the three bro guys do. We're going to get together and take a look at another exciting card. Joe, are we going to Belmont next week?
Belmont's got 4 stakes, and I believe there's a 3-year-old race that's a prep for the Belmont as well. And Peter Pan, Ray?
Oh,
No,
Mr.
Peter
Carraro?
Pan,
They also run the
Come here, Peter
Bogey.
Pan.
They also run the Bogey, and I think it's a 4 stakes card at Belmont that day, and hopefully the weather will be better than it'll be tomorrow at Churchill Downs.
Mr. Torado, it definitely sounds like we're heading your way next week.
Okay, well, I'll be in Fort Lauderdale next week, so I hope to tune in.
Tune
right.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You better be on.
Oh, yeah, we're going in for the beach.
All right, gentlemen. That's all the time we have for tonight on our very special Kentucky Derby show. For everybody who's watching, I hope you have a wonderful Kentucky Derby.
Good
You
luck,
guys-
everybody.
Good luck,
guys-
everybody. Have fun.
Godspeed to all the horses and riders tomorrow.
It's always a pleasure to handicap with the two of you.
Yes, indeed.
For shizzle.
For Joe English and Ray Torado, I'm Rich Sharp. Thank you for watching Three Broke Guys Handicapping. Good luck and good night.
Night.
Happy Derby.